All right, let's dive into a huge issue that's putting the jobs of thousands of teachers across India on the line. We're talking about a massive question. Can you actually be fired for failing a test that didn't even exist when you were hired? It's this incredible clash between years of real-world classroom experience and a single standardized exam. And honestly, the outcome could change everything.
I mean, just think about it for a second. Imagine you've been doing your job for more than 10 years. You were hired under a certain set of rules. Then, out of the blue, a new rule comes in, and suddenly you're being told, pass this brand new test or you're out of a job. Well, for countless teachers in India, this isn't some thought experiment. It's their reality right now.
And you've got to understand, this isn't just some small, isolated lawsuit. What started as a legal fight in just one state has exploded into a crisis that's putting the careers of educators all across the country in serious jeopardy. A single court decision here could set a precedent that affects teachers everywhere, and it could potentially leave classrooms without their most experienced people.
And let's be really clear about the scale we're talking about. It is massive. We're talking about thousands upon thousands of teachers whose livelihoods are just stuck in legal limbo. This has huge nationwide implications for schools, for students, and it's raising some pretty serious questions about the stability of the entire education system.
So this whole thing might have kicked off in Tripura, but as you can see, teachers in West Bengal, Jharkhand, Assam, and Madhya Pradesh are all watching this case like hawks. Why? Because they're facing the exact same threat. That's why the court's final decision here is going to be so critical for the whole country.
So how did this all even start? To really get the national picture, we have to go back to the source, to the state of Tripura in northeast India. It was one notification back in 2021 that basically lit the fuse on this entire firestorm. Okay, this timeline, this is at the absolute heart of the whole conflict. You've got a group of teachers who were appointed between 2004 and 2010. Back then, the Teacher Eligibility Test, or TET, simply wasn't required. Then in 2010, the TET comes along, but it's for new hires. The real trouble starts in 2021 when Tripura suddenly says, nope, everyone has to pass it, even those hired years before the rule ever existed. Pass it or lose your job. So, facing the very real threat of being fired, the teachers, well, they didn't just take it sitting down. They organized. Their argument was simple. You can't just change the rules of our employment after the fact. And they took that fight to the Tripura High Court. And on July 16, 2024, the High Court sided with them. It was a landmark verdict. The court said loud and clear, the government could not force the TET on teachers who were appointed before the rule was even created. For the teachers, it was a massive, massive win. The key legal idea here is something called retroactive effect. The court basically said it's improper to apply a new rule backwards in time. It's just fundamentally unfair, right? It's like telling an athlete they're disqualified from a race they won 10 years ago because the rules for running have changed since then. It just doesn't make sense.
But of course, the fight was far from over. The Tripura government wasn't happy with that ruling, so they challenged it, taking the case all the way to the Supreme Court of India. And just like that, a state-level dispute turned into a massive national showdown.
So, before the Supreme Court bench, with Justice Dipankar Datta and Justice Augustin George Massey, the arguments were laid out pretty clearly. On one side, the teachers are saying, hey, our appointments were totally valid under the old rules, and our decades of experience have to count for something. But the government's firing back, arguing that the TET is absolutely essential for making sure there's a uniform standard of quality education for all students.
So, the Supreme Court hearing wrapped up on October 13, 2025. But then, in a really crucial move, the court reserved its final judgment. The decision is still pending, which means the fate of thousands of people is just hanging in the balance.
Okay, so while everyone's on the edge of their seat waiting for the court to decide, a completely new factor has emerged, a potential plot twist, the possibility of a political solution. The central government has started to get involved.
And this is a pretty big deal. According to West Bengal leader Suvendu Adhikari, the union education minister, Dharmendra Pradhan, has basically promised to find a legal way to protect these senior teachers. This signals there might be a way out of this mess that doesn't involve the courts, a real acknowledgement of the huge political and social stakes here.
And here's where it gets even messier. The NCTE, the actual organization that sets the rules for teacher education, seems to be contradicting itself. The teachers' lawyers are pointing out that the NCTE's own rules from that hiring period didn't require the TET. And get this, even a 2017 amendment they made was about training teachers, not testing them. It's a powerful argument that this mandatory exam policy was never the plan to begin with.
So as we all wait for that final verdict,
This whole saga really forces us to take a step back and ask a much bigger, more fundamental question about what we actually value in our education system.
And that really brings us to the heart of it all. Beyond all the legal jargon and the court battles, this case forces every single one of us to ask, what truly makes a great teacher? Is it the knowledge that you can prove on a standardized test, or is it the wisdom you gain over decades of being in a classroom, working with students? The Supreme Court's answer, whatever it is going to shape the future of education in India.